They say opposites attract.
Well, how about these opposites? Daddies and sons.
You're listening to Daddy and Son.
A podcast where we explore the dynamics of daddy and son relationships, multi-generational views,
And everything else in between.
One resident describes her horrifying experience when she first realized the complex was on fire.
Well, I woke up to go get me a cold pop, and then I thought somebody was barbecuing. I said, oh, Lord Jesus, it's a fire. Then I ran out. I didn't grab no shoes or nothing, Jesus. I ran for my life. And then the smoke got me. I got bronchitis. Ain't nobody got time for that.
According to the apartment manager, the fire started in a woman's home who is wheelchair bound. She was treated for smoke inhalation at a local hospital. There were no other reports of injuries. The Red Cross is helping those families displaced by the fire.
Yeah, ain't nobody got time for that. In the words of Miss Sweet Brown. Good afternoon, listeners. Today we turn our attention to the pressing issue affecting our fellow Canadians, and that's if you have been living under a rock or you haven't seen CP24 while you were at the gym lately.
Or you were away in Europe for a few days.
Or like Norm, getting away and living your best life, living his best retirement-ish.
Semi.
The wildfires raging across Manitoba and North Ontario is what we're referring to.
Well, I didn't even know this.
You didn't?
No, I did. This is all news.
Well, first and foremost, our hearts go out to the families and communities impacted by this devastating fire in Manitoba, right? You know, this fire happened near Lac de Bonnet, and it claimed the life of a married couple.
I saw that today.
You saw it?
Yes. Oh, that's so sad.
And they were unable to escape the rapidly advancing fire, right? This, of course, was fueled by the extreme heat and dry conditions that has led to the evacuation of approximately 1,000 residents in the area and the destruction of over 28 structures, including buildings and schools and hospitals.
We haven't even started summer yet.
I know. In the in Grosdien Point area. This is according to CP24 and CBC News. In Northern Ontario, the situation is equally as dire because in Kenora, also had the fire had spread to Kenora, originating near Ingolf and is expanded over 23 hectares. So prompting evacuation in that area as well and posing significant threats to nearby communities. So while the gravitas of this is pretty clear to us, and you know me over here on Daddy and Son, I like to use this podcast, our podcast, even when we have differences on opinions, especially on things like climate change. I love to use this podcast to bring awareness, to use the platform to be a voice for everyone, and a voice for people who have different opinions or different thoughts on the situation of things, because what's happening over there may just tomorrow be over here, right? So
well, look at the fire.
We can't think like, okay, it's not our problem, it's their problem, because it's still in Ontario.
Yeah, look at the smoke we had here in the city for 2 summers ago, remember?
And just like Miss Brown, she's got bronchitis. Ain't nobody got time for that. Nobody's got time for that. You know, I have asthma. So, you know.
The lady whose voice we just heard?
Yes.
I didn't know they had those accents in Manitoba.
It affects the northern United States as well.
Well, they don't have them in Minnesota either, honey.
Well, we'll see about that.
Unless they're transplants from Alabama.
Mother Nature seems to have taken spring cleaning to a next level, a little bit too literally this year, and turning this vast forest fire into like
We're going to have a hot, dry
unintended
summer. If it's
section,
like
yeah.
this now, and look what here in Toronto today, it's mid-May. It's 81 degrees Fahrenheit, 27 Celsius, sorry.
I
to our
guess we
American
should
friends.
be anybody going to cottage country for this long weekend should probably rethink having a bonfire.
Well,
So that's all I'm going to say. With that being said, and in all seriousness, while the wildfires underscore like a growing challenge
Yes.
posed by climate change and record-breaking temperatures, like today it's already 27 degrees outside.
yep. Oh, sorry, I still
We just want to navigate these times with just a little bit of humor while we support our communities, heed evacuation orders. And if you do intend to anyone listening to do any form of donation, just please make sure that you're donating to reputable locations and resources and NGOs like the Red Cross. Be mindful of GoFundMe scams online.
Yeah.
And
good warning.
and listen to what Son says this week, and it has been endorsed by Daddy.
For sure.
With that being said, welcome to this week's episode of Daddy and Son. Norm is back with
Glad to
us.
be back.
Welcome back, Daddy.
Yeah, it's great to be back, but I had a great time.
How was Europe?
Prague and Berlin are amazing cities. Highly recommend. And you know what I notice about European cities? People in Europe are civilized. They're efficient. They get their transportation systems.
But
are
the
efficient.
transportation system doesn't have air conditioning,
Well, yes, but at least it gets from point A to point B.
I guess.
Without somebody jumping on the tracks.
With no delays. That's
Yeah.
true. I will give them that. That's if I don't die from a heat stroke on it, but
Yeah.
I'll give them that. You're right. You're not wrong.
Your fan is working just fine today. I commend you.
Shout out to Dyson. Dyson, if you're listening, we'll shout out to you. We
Looking for a
love a
wholesale
Bladeless
deal?
fan. We love an affiliate marketing deal.
Yes, looking for some wholesale deals,
So,
please.
and you can definitely send Norm one of your latest models of your Tower Bladeless fans.
I'll take last year's model even.
What else enlightened you about your trip?
The fact that I was able to keep up with somebody half my age. We did about 50 things a day.
You always
Walked a
do that
million
when
miles.
you're on vacation, don't you? Just do more walking than you do when you're
work
home.
your butt off.
It's fun.
I came home and said, I remember sitting down on the plane and just thinking, oh, like slept all the way home. Well, I saw a movie and slept. Anyway, it was great. And now I'm looking at a wonderful cocktail, and I have to ask you what we're drinking today because this is...
my favorite segment.
Oh, yes.
So you know what? I made this. I'm so in love with this. This is my springtime cocktail. I made this for Cole, our guest last week. Shout out to him. It's an Earl Grey martini. So refreshing, so delicious. What do you think?
Well, I haven't sipped it yet.
All right. Well, what are we waiting for?
There we
Cheers.
go. Can we hear the clinks in the background? I hope so.
Ooh.
Too bad there isn't a video portion because this is very nicely, what's the word? Sommelier-ized, presented.
It is so, it's delicate. It has nice flavors of tea, the black tea that has been seeping inside the vodka.
There's a chocolate in there, isn't there?
No, not chocolate, but close.
Coffee?
Luxardo, almond liqueur.
Oh, okay. That's what it was.
Yes.
Delicious. That's what makes it.
It really gives it a pop, as well as a little bit of butterscotch liqueur as well. And of course, finished with a nice egg white foam on top that is delicately stabilized with lemon juice. And of course, some Earl Grey flower, some tea flowers on top. And as you can tell, this is no child drink. It looks pretty, but it's strong as hell.
You're darn right. It's got Norman grabbing the water here just for a moment.
With that being said, welcome back, Norm. I'm so happy that you're here,
Well,
that you're
thank
safe,
you, hon.
your plane didn't fall out of the sky.
It's good to be back, and I can only say Air Canada Premium Economy is great service.
You've been promoting premium economy a lot lately.
Well, I can't afford business class on my retirement income, but I'm damned if I'm going to sit in a little tiny cubicle for 8 hours.
You're not wrong. I don't mind premium economy, but the thing about premium economy is if I'm traveling with Phoenix, I can't take premium economy because you're not allowed to have your pets with premium economy. Only in economy or business class.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So a little section in the pod, where the bed goes above. That's actually where you put your dog bag. Yeah.
I've never noticed that because I wasn't.
But you notice that premium economy has no place to put your bag on your bag's underneath the seat.
It does. A small one, like
it's small, but it's too small for even like a doggy bag. So
if you're fortunate enough to get on the plane soon enough, you can put everything up above anyway, and you've got room for your feet, which I love.
I know when I'm next traveling and Phoenix is with me. I mean, I am doing business class, but if I ever have to do premium economy, I'll have to figure something out. Maybe schmooze. Yes, that's the word I'm looking for.
Yes,
schmooze.
That's a lobbyist word. Schmooze. Yes. Okay.
I'm in training. What do you think?
One career at a time, honey.
and see if I can get bumped up to business class, and you just blame it on the dog.
You have so many miles, and you travel a lot more than I do. You're more likely to be able to be upgraded.
I haven't touched them in a while. I'm saving.
How many do you have?
Over 200,000 now.
Oh, I have 135,000 left.
Oh, so
I just used some. No, I just used half of what I had.
But they really rack up really well. Shout out to Aeroplan.
Hey, every time I come here, I got Aeroplan points because I'm bringing a bottle of something.
They make it really easy, and especially with the credit card where you get 2 points per dollar. It's amazing. So it almost, when I go shopping and I use that credit card, I still get the points on the booze, or at Starbucks, or on Uber, or wherever their partners are.
It's the particular
Plus,
credit card.
when I pay my bill, I get an additional
Is that the Amex?
2 points per eligible purchases and 1 point per dollar.
Is that the Amex card?
Yeah, that's the Amex card.
The one you pay like $600 a year for?
Well, it's not that much, but close.
Well, yeah. Well, I use an Amex card now, but I get scene points. And you're going to laugh at scene. You know what? I just got a $500 Shell gas card with my scene points a few weeks ago.
Huh.
Well, I'll be glad to take $500 worth of gas. That's money in my pocket. Anyway, we're getting off topic from what you wanted to talk about today.
Anyone listening who is over at Airplan, or anyone, because apparently Airplan is separate from Air Canada. It's a whole separate entity.
Yeah, they sold it off.
It's a whole separate entity. So anybody over there and you're listening, again, we're open to brand affiliate deals, all right? Mm-hmm. So, and if you're a listener and you know someone, holla at your boy.
We got to get
us up.
We got to get Daddy and Son on Air Canada broadcast on the planes. They do have podcasts.
They do have podcasts.
I think we should go for that.
That is true. I will be looking into that.
18 years of older only, however.
Canadian-grown podcast, Canada Strong. I'll be looking into that.
They used to have smoking and non-smoking sections. Now they're going to have 18-year-old and above 18-year-old.
But I've watched shows on Air Canada where people are in fully nude.
Well,
having sex.
Let's go for it.
I have to be like, ooh, let me speed up this part.
Are you sure you weren't looking at somebody's phone in the next row?
Oh, God.
Anyway.
Remember, Air Canada has HBO. They have that deal.
They
really? They have HBO
I just
Max.
watched movies when I came
and HBO Max on Air Canada. So just, all I have to say is HBO, and the listeners know what time it is. With that being said, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to just do a little quick splash on the drinks, and then we will jump right into this week's episode. And we're back, ladies and gents.
We're back.
Gays
Ladies and
gays.
ladies and gays. I heard that one last week. Gentle gays.
Gentle gays. And dumb tops too. To daddy and son. Mm-hmm. So last week I'm
a smart top, by the way.
Sure. I believe that.
Yeah,
I
right.
believe that.
Okay. Too much information. Apologies, folks.
I mean, you have to put yourself out there. This show is a space for your resume.
Well, certain parts of the resume. There's certain parts of the resume that wouldn't be on LinkedIn, though.
We call those soft skills, Daddy. Soft skills.
Well, I want the LinkedIn that has the hard skills.
Please.
You walked into that.
So, in recap, last week's episode, which was entitled
Ambient Intimacy.
Ambient Intimacy, featuring
Profound.
Cole.
Excellent. If you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it, folks.
Yeah. A great few things were spoken about, and I just want to take this time to kind of just highlight something that I probably didn't say, but I want to just add to, my closing statements on that topic. We got to get outside. We got to get outside. The focus is a lot on relationships, specifically romantic ones, but we also have to also consider friendships as a part of relationships too. Those need to be fostered, and a lot of us tend to take our friendships for granted. And we push aside our friendships, especially when a new lover comes into the picture, and we forget that whether that lover is going to be there for a season, for a fling, or for a lifetime, your friends are the ones that are there in the beginning and in the end. They are the alpha and the omegas, and it is imperative that we still call on our friends, you know.
Invest in your friends.
Yeah. Don't take it for granted.
No.
Don't say, oh, I'm not going to call this friend tonight because, I got to go, have a conversation with my man. Even if it's just a 10-minute check-in to say, how are you doing?
They were talking last week. You guys were talking last week about the time wasted on the apps.
Yeah.
And I think, I got to confess, I like sitting on the apps and yakking. I mean, people say, what are you looking for? Usually I like chit-chatting. Mm-hmm. But you know what? Why not chit-chat with a friend who who you haven't called for a while?
Yeah.
How many times do we get on the phone and call up and say, hey, Joe, hey, Raquel, hey, Ramon, or hey, Bill, depending on, whether you're young or old. But have a conversation with people.
Yeah.
That's enriching. That's how you connect. That's the intimacy that we're looking for, because we want to know what's in somebody else's mind and somebody else's heart. And when we feel we're being listened to, you know what? That makes a whole lot of the loneliness go away.
And do you
agree with me?
No, I agree with you 100%. We take, I realize even myself, I have to check myself, because I got checked, well, not like in a bad way, but about a week and a half ago, I was in Niagara. While you were away, actually.
Yes, I remember you when you went on the Saturday.
And I called a friend who is a good friend of mine who got me passes to his wine club.
Oh.
Really expensive, super exclusive, $40,000 a year wine club. A membership. And because he knows a lot about wines, it's like, what wineries do you think I should be visiting when I'm down at Niagara-on-the-Lake? And he gave me some really interesting wineries that I'd never heard of before.
Well, I'd love to have those names.
But they were so good.
Yeah.
They were so good, Norm. And I called him and I was like, I'm so sorry. I'll just say for, Tom. I'll say, Tom, I'm so sorry to call it the blue, but I'm driving, da-da-da-da-da. He's like, no, I'm happy that you call. I wish friends would call out of the blue more often.
Oh, I love that line.
And
I love that line.
It really made me put things into perspective, because I'm one of those low-maintenance friends where as long as I know that you are still in my life in a wholesome way, I don't need to talk to you every single day. But it would be nice if I have friends who just call me out the blue to just say, hey, how are you?
Well, most of the time we just text each other.
Yeah.
Because I almost feel, even in a work context, I'm afraid to phone people. I feel like I'm disturbing them. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we don't want to disturb people. It's almost like we have to have permission to call somebody now.
Yeah.
Whereas in the old days, 1980s, 1990s, you wanted to reach out to somebody. You wanted a date. You wanted a trick. You got on the phone. You went through your phone book and tell, oh, good, that one locks in. We'll be here in an hour, and I can stop phoning.
I'm telling you, like, we gotta reconnect this summer and
like
get
that.
outside, Norm. We need to get outside.
That is the theme for this summer.
For summer 2025, reconnection.
Reconnect. Yeah.
Together again.
I like that.
In the words of Janet Jackson, we need to get together again. And we need to go outside. If you want to be with folks, get outside. If you want to find a man, get outside, because you're not going to... Even I myself, sometimes check myself, like, I'm sitting inside here and I'm just like, I'm so lonely. And I'm like, yeah, bitch, but you need to just get up and go outside.
Are you telling me you're lonely here sometimes?
Not really, because I'm a Scorpio.
I don't see you as the lonely type.
I'm a Scorpio. I do well by myself. You notice that Scorpions are not like herd creatures. Like, I'm good under a rock by myself, nice, damp, and cold. But but I'm just saying, like, a lot of us, especially gays, we sit down inside our flat and we complain about how we feel lonely, but
I don't feel lonely.
get outside. Go to a bar, buy a drink, buy someone else a drink. It doesn't have to be something expensive. Just buy them a Canadian. If you know what I mean.
A Canadian what?
The beer.
Oh, okay, yeah. I remember when those were $2.25.
What are they now?
I don't know. I haven't bought one lately.
I don't drink beer, so shout out to all the beer drinkers who are listening.
What I'm drinking is a wonderful, what did you call this drink again?
Earl Grey Martini.
Earl Grey Martini. Well,
so it does, so delicious.
The General Earl Grey, was he a general? Was he a sir?
Sir
Earl.
When I go to the UK in a couple weeks, the girls are going to gag, because I'm going to make it for them.
London.
And they are going to literally wet themselves.
London Heathrow Airport. Air Canada 856. Are we in business or not?
This time we're in business.
Oh,
I'm bringing Phoenix.
Oh.
I can't travel economy with Phoenix. No.
You are blessed. I would, you talk about me being privileged and everything. Listen, folks
you
who are
of the
listening,
privileged class.
This guy travels in ways I would dream of. Although I do remember getting on a plane to San Francisco once, walking through the business class section and wondering, where is everybody? And plopping my suitcase down and saying, I'm going to sit here. And they let me.
Are you
serious? That
serious?
doesn't happen anymore, folks. It was a 767. There's lots of room in there. I don't know.
Is that Air Canada operating like Southwest?
Air Canada doesn't operate like that anymore.
Well, the good old days. All right. Well, let's take a quick break, and then we will move into today's episode.
What are we going to talk? We're going to move into. We mean we haven't started yet?
So that's a good question. So today today's topic of discussion, we're going to talk a little bit about the new AI bill.
In the United States.
Well,
where's the
both?
AI?
So there is an AI regulation in the United States. I'm going to discuss, because it's not really a bill, but I'm going to talk about it. It's kind of pushed into another bill, but also the AI Act in the EU and what that means for us and why things are a little bit crazy right now. So we're going to take a quick break and then we'll jump right into that. And welcome back to Daddy and Son.
I'm Daddy.
And I am Son.
I'm Norm.
And I'm Alex. Okay, so Y'all, let's talk about this absolute dumpster fire of an idea that Congress in the United States, they're smuggling into the White House budget bill. And it's like a fake ID card at a college bar, a clause that would bar, air quotes, states from regulating artificial intelligence.
How do you regulate artificial intelligence?
Well, like anything else, you put processes and you put policies and you put bills in place that will look at how it's distributed, how it's used, how it's built, and how it's regulated.
To me, you know what AI is? ChatGPT.
But
it's more than that, isn't it?
It's way more than that.
Yeah.
It's way more than that. Because ChatGPT is only one form of AI, which is generative AI. But when we're talking about this bill...
Generative AI, yes, right, okay. There's two types, right?
This bill affects more than just generative AI. It affects AI such as biometrics, things that does surveillance, things that does computational and calculative work, things that does engineering and architecture, digital architecture and engineering, I should be specific. So yes, it is serious. And you heard right. They are pretty much putting a stopgap on this. So if you're living in the US, your state who probably allows you to sell raw milk and who can tell you who is allowed to braid your damn hair or whether your weed gummy has too much THC in it, they're the same ones who are saying if a bloodthirsty robot algorithm decides to ruin your credit score because your name is Deshaun instead of David, sorry, babes.
I object.
That's in federal territory now.
I object.
What do you object to?
Well, what I mean is that's not right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But you know that's what... In fact...
How can they do that? How can a politician regulate a technology that is changing faster than their hair is getting gray?
This is part of the problem.
Okay.
That is part of the problem. And we're going to get into that.
Okay. You like that analogy, though?
I do.
Okay.
But case in point, remember, that was part of the reason why Brian got pow-powed by Luigi.
Oh, Brian got pow-powed by
Brian
Luigi.
Thompson. United Healthcare CEO.
Oh, yeah. The guy, yes.
By Luigi Mangione.
Oh, yeah.
That's why he got pow-powed.
And why was that? Because he said no to the claim.
They had for over a year an AI making decisions on claims rather than human adjudicators. And they had the highest rate of denial. 90% denial rate.
I find that hard to believe. 90%
it is
by
in
insurance companies?
it is there. The Times, Wall Street Journals, everyone has done their investigative reporting on it. 90%. And this was something, by the way, if you didn't know, last week their shareholders sued United Healthcare because after the killing of Brian,
the stock price tanked?
The stock price tanked,
yeah.
And they changed their policies around the use of AI, and now the shareholders are suing them because they're saying that the stock prices have dropped because they have changed the policy based on they've changed the policy without consulting the stakeholders. We live in a world where people get to sue a healthcare insurance provider because they're doing the right thing and not using AI to gouge people and steal their money.
I guess what I would say is I want to understand AI from the point of view of how's it going to benefit the Canadian economy? How do we use AI to reposition, to reinvent, to increase the productivity and to expand our markets beyond the United States?
Well, that's a good question, and that's
I know it's not something we have to talk about today.
That's not what we're talking about today, but that's actually a very good question. And you know what? I'm going to do some research into that because there are lots of companies, especially in Montreal and Calgary, startups, of course, they're doing really good work with AI in Canada.
Great.
Really good work,
Great.
especially around surveillance. They're doing really good work with AI around household use. And they're really doing a lot of good work with the use of AI for calculating weather patterns as well. Shout out to Ada in Montreal. I actually applied to work there a couple years ago.
Oh oui? Parlez-vous français, monsieur?
Oui.
Il faut parler français si vous comptez habiter au Québec. You have to learn to speak French if you're going to live in Quebec. But that's possible. It's doable.
I can hold my own with French.
I'm sure you can. Everything is learnable.
And but that would be something to report on for this podcast for a future podcast for sure.
It's going to change the world.
It is. And because of how it is rapidly evolving, it is so surprising that the deregulation of AI is now in federal territory, especially in the United States, who are global leaders.
Well,
next to China on this topic.
Maybe. They are leaders, but China is able to do it a lot more inexpensively at almost the same level of quality of performance
in certain areas, and there is truth and verisimilitude to that in certain areas, and we've seen that with DeepSeek as an example.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Right, but again, that is one area, generative AI. So, throwing in the towel here is not an option. Yeah, let's say that Skynet self-regulates us and it's working out great for Terminator 2, which we all saw how that happened. And let's just say that AI use could never influence anybody to, organize and spread misinformation and cause a mob that will, I don't know, cause people to tear down a government building and call for the hanging of a few government employees, because that has never happened before, right? That's never happened. Congress is over here playing 5D chess with this literal sentient math, while the rest of us are still trying to figure out how ChatGPT wrote its ex last breakup text.
I don't need to know how ChatGPT works. I just know when I ask it questions, it gives me answers. And then it says, would you like to know more? And I say yes. And I get more information. And guess what? I've written my article.
Language learning model, honey. But as we spoke about when we first spoke about AI,
a year ago,
go back to that episode, I believe it's called The Dark Side of AI. Go back to that episode. AI does hallucinate. And we've seen this happen time and time again.
Meaning it makes mistakes.
It makes mistakes.
Yeah, okay. Well, sure. Because
I myself have asked AI to write me a letter, a tooth fairy letter, and it
did she respond?
It responded, but it had a shit ton of spelling errors.
Well. The nice thing about ChatGPT
and the more I asked it to fix it, it just kept giving me more bullshit.
Look, you can fix the spelling mistakes. That's not the big deal. You got the points out there. The point is, AI is an information wonderland.
Okay, so let's just say that's not the big deal, right? How about an executive law firm in the United States using AI to article for a case that they're trialing, right? Only for the judge, who was really compelled by the articles brought forward by this law firm, then looked it up to realize that it was citing laws that didn't exist.
AI can't.
And this
are you suggesting AI would do that?
Who has over 1,300 employees, which very well could have use employees to do this manually, decided to use AI to cite laws and did not verify or double check if those laws even existed. That's a perfect example of
did this
AI.
happen?
Yes, this did happen.
Well, then
just 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so then you go to appeal route. Bingo.
Well, what ended up happening was the judge ended up fining the law firm because basically the judge said this was them attempting to
put false information before the court.
Exactly.
Yeah. Comrades, I'm not even a lawyer, and I know that much.
So, but you may sit here.
But that's an exception. That's more of an exception.
It's not an exception. Situations like this are happening more and more and more on a daily basis, and that's why we need to call for regulation of AI.
How do you regulate that? How do you regulate preventing a mistake?
By making sure that there are checks and balances and proper use of the tool.
Well,
especially when we're talking about various industry sectors such as architecture, infrastructure, law.
You can't legislate against making mistakes.
We can't legislate against making mistakes, but we can legislate against the use of AI without verification. Verify before you comply.
That sounds like I'm trying to think what
you see. You
Reagan
like to take a
say.
very small government conservative approach to things, but as I've said on this podcast before, not everything is meant to be in the hands of private sector.
Well, I'm not sure we still understand yet the capabilities of AI.
I'm sorry.
So it's going to be difficult
Let us
to
rephrase
regulate.
that. The people, the powers may be,
Yeah.
the ruling class don't understand it. The people who are in power, that are working that are legislative on the legislative branch and that are in the House and in Congress, they don't understand it. But you know who understand it? Hands up. I do.
Well, I'm glad you do.
Surprise, surprise.
And guess what? The President of the United States doesn't understand trading. That's why we have this shitty tariff policy.
And he's the president. So
by the way, the big issue...
what does that leave for the rest of us?
I hate to say it, but the big issue in the United States right now isn't AI per se. It's how do we pay for all these things we want to do?
Well,
that is the biggest challenge governments have in the Western world. People in like Joes like me want health care. We want our pensions. We want good roads. We want a nice, safe society. We don't have enough money to pay for it. How do we do it? And the people you call the ruling class want to give the rich even more tax breaks. Tax breaks cost money, takes money away from poor people that need it for medical care and all those other things. Those are the huge issues we have right now in our society. They're going through that direction, then that discussion in the United States. We're going to be going through it right now in Canada very shortly. Uh-oh, you're tired of that.
Well, you know what, Daddy?
What?
Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing your concerns about pocketbook issues and why you feel like you need to be richer. But
I don't need to be richer.
The rest of us...
I want our country to survive and be
The rest
thrive.
of us aren't concerned with money right now.
We are. We're all concerned. We want to live and
okay, let me rephrase this. We're all
live.
concerned about money, but that's not the topic of discussion today. How about that?
How does AI help us generate wealth and live comfortably, live more profitably and more productively? That's the trick.
Well,
we got to use this technology for good reasons.
Again, yes, we need to use this technology for good reasons, and you're absolutely right. Right? That's why we need to use it. Follow in the steps of the EU and take a risk-based approach to use AI responsibly, to increase productivity, to reduce manual labor in a way that it can increase education and it can increase manpower in areas where we need to be putting manpower in, which will inevitably aid in the issues such as corporations and private individuals being able to make money and put money back into their pocket. But we will not be able to get to that place if AI is allowed to be used irresponsibly to lead down to the breakdown of society. And that's what I'm talking about today.
I don't disagree with that.
I want to use this platform to talk about the dangers of this irresponsible act that is done by Congress.
Oh, you don't like this act?
So... Or this, I don't like this bill. I don't like the deregulation of AI because this bill states that they will not be able to make any changes to regulations of AI for the next 10 years.
So they're going totally different direction than the Europeans.
Very totally different direction.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
In Europe, they're saying, well, we're going to take a risk-based approach and we're going to itemize all these tools, AI tools, based on how dangerous they are. So we have tools that we're completely banned, tools that we want to keep a close eye on, but we are going to allow them, and tools that are given the green light, but we are going to review them on a frequent basis to make sure that they're not being abused or people aren't finding ways to abuse them, right? I think in the US, they have taken a no-no approach to this. They've decided that the best way to handle is an unregulated black box of power that can allow deep fake of Trump being the next pope to, I don't know, let corporations handle it. And when has that ever been good? When has putting corporations in charge of regulating themselves,
we need boundaries,
aka Boeing,
we need some boundaries,
ever worked out? We need boundaries. We need competent people to say, yes, this is the good parts of AI, this is the bad parts of AI, and this is the parts that we will not tolerate. Or these are the things that AI can do that we will not tolerate at all. As an example, AI hiring people, which happens today.
AI hiring people?
Yes.
I would think AI would de-hire people.
Or that.
Yeah. Just because of the technology.
AKA Doge.
Well, Doge isn't quite the same thing.
No, Doge is known to use AI to measure people's productivity, and then they ended up firing people. That's how they ended up firing a bunch of people on who were air traffic controllers, people who worked with NASA, and then tried to rehire them back. They used AI for that. It's on the news.
That was lousy management decision making by people.
No, that was using AI without that was
without oversight.
Irresponsible use of AI.
It was using AI, letting AI make the decision rather than
with zero guardrails,
providing input, and then humans saying, "Wait a minute, this makes no sense." And you got to have that part. You always have to have an oversight.
You always have to. And listen,
I agree with that.
I came with receipts. Because you're asking
receipts.
Yes. In the words of Whitney Houston, show me the receipts. I have receipts.
I get a receipt when I buy something. How do I?
All right. AI generated child abuse, or CPAC, child pornography, right? Child pornography. It's already happening. They've already started asking, the US government have already started reaching out to companies like Meta to crack down on this. And
they're using AI to find it?
To create it. First, they used AI with celebrities, usually.
To create pornography?
Child pornography, yes.
That's nuts.
Yes.
Now, that's just plain, that's not an AI issue. That is just plain moral, and it's wrong. Anything that allows that should be outlawed.
But it's not illegal.
Interesting.
It's not illegal because it's not...
There's no law to cover it.
Because there's no law to cover it. And now this deregulation of AI makes things worse.
Possible? Okay.
It makes things impossible.
Well, that's where the boundaries have to be.
Do you like the idea of a social credit score like China does? You see, those are the things that we're trying to prevent.
No, a social score as opposed to a credit score. It's a social score. How do you evaluate a social score?
You're going to have to ask somebody who lives in China.
In China, you can do that because the state is the standard. in the United States, in a democratic society, you're free.
Are you for real right now? Are you taking the piss? Are you taking the piss? Are you really calling me pointing down south? Are you really calling United States a democratic society right now?
What is a social score?
Where mayors are being arrested and judges are being detained.
No. Listen, the social score only works in a society where the state defines the rules. That doesn't hapen in the United States.
You know what's wrong with you? You know what's wrong with you, Norm?
We don't have that.
You lack vision.
No,
you
not.
really lack. No, you do. You do. You lack vision, and you lack the capability to see how far and wide the reach of the Trump administration can go, and how much they are testing their power right now.
They're not introducing a social score.
Well, they haven't introduced it, and nobody is saying that they're introducing it. But the use of AI in China is very much used to calculate people's social credit score.
I can believe that because they have a very clear mandate.
Biased facial recognition, as an example,
in China, yes, I can see that.
Can be used. Biased facial recognition can be used by the U.S. government and has been used by the U.S. government. Snowden already spoke about this from the Obama administration when the CIA was doing this, and it can be used
to profile people.
Yeah.
Well, profiling goes on all the time. You go across the border.
And does that make it okay? Do you think AI is going to slow down?
Hold on. Profiling happens when you go into an airport. Profiling happens.
That's one example, though.
Well, there's a lot of examples of profiling.
But I'm not using the
question is, how do you come up with the profile?
Your thought process is informed by your knowledge. But I'm telling you that this could go a lot deeper than that, Norm.
So the AI can determine the profile, is what you're saying.
The AI could determine if you
make the cut or not.
If you even get insurance. If you even get approved for a mortgage.
Yes.
If you even get into a university.
Yeah, and that's you're saying that's bad?
If you even get equity, and it is very much bad.
Well, but what if the information it is generating is so superior in its analysis that it's actually, in most cases, recommending a conclusion that is accurate? And that's the value of AI.
But that would be predicting someone's future, not based on someone who they are right now.
But in a business, you want to be risk assessment. All AI is it's a form of risk assessment, right?
And that has worked out well for minority groups, hasn't it?
You know, we're going to have a lot of discussion about this topic, and you want to study this when you go to law school, don't you?
Well, that's part of the reason why I'm going to law school.
I see, and that's why we're so passionate about this now.
Well, I'm not. It's not so much. It's not even so much about me being passionate about it. It's me trying to bring awareness to my audience about something that people aren't thinking about that is definitely and greatly affecting them.
True, it is. It is well beyond
when corporate organizations are using AI to make decisions, when lawmakers are using AI to make decisions, it directly impacts you. And yes, it may not be putting dollars in your pocket right now, but it may be the difference between whether you have equity 5 years from now or not. It could be the difference between whether your child, if you're listening and you have children, how they're educated. It could be the difference between if people my age are able to get a mortgage loan or not. It could be the difference between multiple things, and we need to understand how this works and how laws and implication, especially in Canada where we have no laws at all.
And the point is the technology is going to move faster than the law, isn't it?
AI is the worst today than it will ever be.
Because there's no law governing it?
No, because it's only getting better.
In other words, its potential abuse is greater. The potential for abuse is greater.
The U.S. deciding that, okay, rather than building laws around AI, we are going to put a stopgap on any regulations of AI for the next 10 years is leaving AI ripe for abuse.
It is also allowing creative technology people the ability to generate avenues for where AI could be applied.
Well, that's part of it too, because regulation also helps to it also helps to drive innovation and creativity.
Yeah.
Right? People may think that it stifles innovation and creativity, but quite the contrary. It gives people a guideline on how to make AI
applicable
for everyone.
But the trick is you got to have boundaries on how it's being used. That's your point.
They got to have boundaries. Right now, the U.S. Congress is saying, let's blindfold the states, right? Tie their hands behind them and let Skynet make all the decisions. It can't work, Norm.
Well, I'm happy to say that in Canada, this is not a top-of-mind issue at the moment. It will become that. We're trying to figure out how we deal with Trump. How do we survive without the United States as an export market?
Well, as I've said all the time...
That's existential.
What I've said all the time, when the U.S. sneezes, Canada catches a cold. Unless we forget, Canada to this day has no laws around AI. So...
Well...
Sir, ma'am's congressional vase, why?
Mr. Speaker... I recognize the member from...
Unregulated AI, mark my words. You see, you're very short-sighted because you're focused on... You're a one-issue focused person.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. You're focused on money, no more than people who only focus on abortion. You're a single-issue voter. No. And you're a single... You focus on a single issue, but...
I see your point. I absolutely see your point. But you can't... The Americans aren't ready to do anything about this.
But this is why we as Canadians need to look at what is happening.
We have other priorities.
They are ready to take care of business, but they choose not to because they're choosing profits over people. And that's why we in Canada need to look at what is happening across in our neighboring backyard and take a note and move accordingly. We need to take action. And let me break it down in plain English. If you tie the hands of the states and you're silencing the last line of defense between people and the algorithmic chaos, there is no democracy. There is no democracy.
Well, there's no democracy right now in the United States because Mr. Trump's taking care of that problem. They don't need AI to do that.
Well, newsflash, federal regulation moves like molasses in a snowstorm. We all know that.
Federal regulation moves like molasses in January or a snowstorm, yeah. Slowly.
Very.
Yep.
I mean, I give the EU their props. Big up to the EU. Shout out to you guys. They built a whole regulatory framework.
Which, by the way, why Britain decided to split away from them, but that's another issue.
Well, it's funny you should say that because Britain also built a similar AI bill that is not fully modeled after the AI Act of the EU, but because they're not necessarily taking a risk-based approach, but they've basically said, we are going to explore this over the next 3 years, and we're going to throw a lot of money at this to explore AI a little bit more and the dangers of AI.
Let's bring this down to the level of the average Joe.
Okay.
What do I do as a citizen? What do I need to know? What questions should I be asking as I make decisions about where to put my money and what to buy? Should I be asking how is AI influencing the choices that I even have in the market? Or what do I need to know about AI as an average citizen?
What you need to know about AI is you don't even have to know how AI works.
What
you need to know...
That's like knowing how the sausage
is
gets put
what
together.
AI is being used for.
Yes, I agree.
And
it's more than ChatGPT.
And it's more than ChatGPT. What is AI being used for and how it's been used?
Yeah.
Why? Because, believe it or not, this affects everyday stuff that we do.
And it's going to increase.
You like flying, right?
Yes, sir.
AI affects air traffic control. It affects the planes in the sky.
It affects which planes go where. It affects which airlines decide to buy which planes.
And if we are, as an example, as we are already seen in the U.S., or if you haven't been keeping up with what's been happening out of Newark Airport.
Don't fly into Newark.
If we are firing air traffic controllers and only having a smaller amount of people and using AI, but then it fails, and then systems shut down for even 15 seconds. 15 seconds of not knowing what's going on in the sky is like literally driving to an intersection and somebody's put a blindfold in front of you.
Exactly.
You need to understand what AI has been used for, how it's being used, and reach out to your members of parliament and tell them that I do not want unregulated AI to take form in my riding. That's what or in my constitutional area.
So you the message is, MP, be concerned about regulating AI in a way that is responsible.
That is responsible and beneficial to people.
And we
is people forward. That's people focused.
And we don't know what exactly the rules need to be right now, but we know there needs to be some boundaries set and it needs to be legislated.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, I buy that.
Otherwise, we're not just heading towards a dystopia, we're budgeting for it.
Well, my friend, that is the last word on artificial intelligence or unintelligence.
I can't with you.
But I still like ChatGPT. And people probably have they associate AI and ChatGPT because if they've used it, and there's some joke about a 50-year-old not knowing how to use ChatGPT. My goodness, if you can't use a browser, then you can't use ChatGPT and a browser are basically the same thing. You just get a little bit more freedom with ChatGPT because you get to ask it a real question. And I'm amazed at the information that comes out of it.
Absolutely. It has definitely made the internet more accessible for everyone, especially for elderly people. It has.
You're talking about me?
Well, not necessarily you, but I'm speaking about like the average grandpa who probably used to struggle with Internet Explorer, and now AI has, or generative AI such as ChatGPT has made it more, or Apple Intelligence or Gemini or XAI. It's made it now a lot more accessible for people to use technology in a way or interact with technology in a way that was only exclusive for people who were what we would consider as techies.
If you're traveling anywhere in the near future, use ChatGPT to get an itinerary for the town or city you're going to be in. You can tell it how many days you're going to be there. You can tell it, I'm connecting at Brussels Airport. How do I do that? It will give you an A, B, C, D, G, how to do it, A, B, C, D, E, F. Sorry, I don't know my alphabet, on how to do it. It's an amazing tool.
I guess.
Use it, but use it warily.
Use it responsibly. Okay, we're going to take a quick break and then we're going to come back with our listener letter. Welcome back. So we have a listener letter and
feedback.
This one is actually the words of Janet Jackson yet again. Feedback. Let me, one of the things that I love about our listeners is that even though we don't have a very large, million listeners yet, I'm really impressed with all the engagement that we've been getting online. And
quality,
I want to thank
and the feedback.
I want to thank everyone for writing in.
Yes.
If you're someone who has given feedback to us, whether in the streets, you stop us in the streets,
and tell us where you're from too,
in person. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and it's greatly appreciated. So with that being said, we're gonna jump into today's listener letter, and that is from someone by the name of...
Drum roll.
It's from the person with the username Bruh.
Bruh?
Bruh.
B-R-U-H?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess we can... Okay, carry on. I won't say anything about that.
Bruh says, dumb question, but if I have an STD, do I need to tell my family that I live with just in case there could be some indirect non-sexual transmission?
Oh.
Thanks, bruh.
You know, my first reaction to that is, thank you for the question, but I'm amazed at the... I hate to say the word, the ignorance of the question, in the sense that there's no way, if you have an STD, if you're not involved intimately with someone, they're not going to get it. But that person doesn't know that? Am I missing something here?
Well, you know what?
I mean, there's obviously a genuine need for
grown-ass
information.
adults who think that you can get HIV by sharing a drink with someone.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that tells you the level of awareness and information out there. But I guess the absolute answer is you have no worries. If you're not sleeping with somebody, you're not going to spread an STD, right?
Well,
I mean, is it that simple? Am I missing the question? You and I have different interpretations of things.
No,
so.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Okay.
Should I? Okay, let me give my answer.
Yeah, your answer.
Honestly, sorry for laughing. And this is by no means us mocking our listeners or, this. No, first of all, there's no such thing as a dumb question.
Correct.
Right? So let's just start there.
Fair enough.
Let me start there. The word sexual implies that it's only a sexually transmitted disease or infection. That's why it's called STI. And so unless you're, as Norm says, unless you're having sex with your family, unless you're living in Alabama,
Let's assume you're not. You're not living in Alabama, or you're not having sex with your family. You're good.
You're good.
Yeah.
Or unless it's an upper respiratory infection or hepatitis A or
if it's a communicable disease
or COVID.
Communicable. Sorry, your martini was a little strong tonight. But yeah.
Unless it's communicable disease, there is really no reason for you to tell your family. There's no reason to do so.
Yeah.
And there is zero chance of transmission for them. So,
but you would want to talk to if you think you have one, to the partner or partners you may think you have either got that from or spread it to. Yeah.
Yes, that is a very important one. And that's a responsible thing to do.
Exactly.
And maybe this is a topic for another podcast, but...
Yeah, we should get somebody in here from...
I should probably get from HQ to talk about that. But I think that there's a lot of anxiety and fear around people talking to sexual partners about STDs and STIs.
And shame. And embarrassment. And I think that's a good topic for a future podcast.
If you're big enough to have sex, you're big enough to talk about it. Especially when there's an STI involved.
And you have to be big to have sex. Well, it has to get big to have sex.
It has to be big for me to take it, but all right. With that being said...
TMI, folks. We're signing off now.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you've made it all the way to the end, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Daddy and Son. That is at Daddy and Son Podcast. So when you go to YouTube, because we are suppressing the algorithm, please find us and subscribe, share, and like. And when you go to YouTube, type in the search bar that's the @ symbol, Daddy and Son Podcast. If you have any questions for the show, send them over to daddyandsonpodcast@gmail.com. That's DADDYANDSON podcast@gmail.com. Until next time, sons, be good to your daddies.
Daddies, be kind to your sons.
Ain't nobody got time for that.